Hey guys, Smith here with Minute Maintenance. I'm loading up the F-150 to head about 20 minutes out of town. I just got a phone call about a friend whose car's not starting. It's a 2015 Chevy Silverado, so we're gonna go ahead and take Minute Maintenance and do a special edition after dark. Welcome to Midnight Maintenance. Alright guys, welcome to Minute Maintenance After Dark. So we got a call from a work friend, lives about 20 minutes outside of town, advised that his 2015 Chevy Silverado isn't starting for him today. He recently did a transmission fluid and filter change himself, but now it doesn't want to start. And I got no reason to believe that his transmission job was any reason for his vehicle not to start. He says it's not making any noises, it's not cranking at all. He said he tested the battery himself, but I went ahead and brought my multimeter and a code reader with me, and hopefully we can get this issue resolved because it's late, it's dark, it's starting to rain, it's only 30 degrees outside, and the auto parts store is unopened. So hopefully we can get this figured out from tonight and get him back on the road. All right, guys, so here we go. We got 2015 Chevy Silverado. Now, the owner takes very good care of this vehicle. He said that after he did his transmission job, he was able to actually drive around town, and it started just fine. But when he came out this morning, everything's dead. So the first thing I highly recommend when it comes to figuring out why your vehicle won't start is check your battery. Now, he went ahead and charged it overnight, so he believes it's fully charged, and it's very possible that it's sitting stationary, fully charged. But then when you go to start it, if there's a dead cell in there, which we've had a lot of super cold weather here in the Midwest, sub-teen, sub-20 degree weather, that it's possible a cell died. So once it goes to start, it's not kicking out all 12 volts, all 10 volts that you need. If your battery goes under 10 volts when you're trying to start it, you know you have an issue. So let me get my multimeter, hook this thing up, and have him turn it over for me. All right, so right here what I have in front of me is a multimeter. It does all sorts of things. It tests voltage, tests resistance. That's this fancy little upside down horseshoe called the omega symbol here if you're familiar with the Greek alphabet. So what you want to do is when you turn on your multimeter, hook up your leads. Red is for positive, black is for negative, and you want to touch it onto the appropriate terminals on the battery. And we should see above 12 volts. If we see above 12 volts, we know since it's a 12 volt battery, it has plenty of stationary power. So red on the positive, black to black, and it reads 12.13. So we know we have plenty of power there. So what we're going to do is, I got the owner sitting inside the truck. I'm still connected to the battery. I'm going to have him turn it over, and if it drops below 10 volts, we know that the battery might be the issue here. Go ahead and crank it over. So we went to crank it, and you see we're sitting at 11.5. So there's plenty of power. And we didn't hear anything at all. So yeah, the starter's actually giving us an issue here. Now, after you check your battery, the next issue that you want to look into is your fuses. When checking your fuses and your relays, there's a bunch of different locations on this 2015 Chevy Silverado on the fuse panel inside the engine compartment as well as inside the cab. So let's get our service manual, flip through that. It's always a good idea, guys, to keep your service manual in your glove box and handy for you. And let's figure out what fuses and what relays belong to the starter and check those over. All right, guys, so next thing you want to do, if the battery tests out just fine and it's not we're not having any running, we're not having any cranking, you come over here. This is the inside of the engine compartment fuse panel. If you have your original service manual or you Google what fuse does what, it gives you all the information you want. Otherwise, on the back of here has a nice layout of the description of what fuse and what relay is responsible for what job. So there's a couple different relays inside this Chevy Silverado. This cat here that I'm pointing at, and these cats down here that control the starter, the running, the cranking, based on the description here. Now I went ahead and you can look into some of these. You can see through the clear lid there to see if there's a full connection. Make sure that connects just fine. Swap out the relays. Some of these are similar and are for less important circuitry, so you pull those out, swap it with the one that you want to run appropriately if that doesn't solve your issues. Also inside here on the cab of the vehicle, on the driver's side, same thing. Fuses and relays all in here. They all control different things. On the back of the panel, it tells you exactly what does what. Check all those fuses, check all those relays, make sure everything is functioning just fine. Replace the relay if you have to, replace the fuse. Went through all those. Every relay and every fuse for the starter, for the crank of the vehicle seems to be functioning. Everything seems to be complete. So that leaves us down to one option. Unfortunately, it's the starter. So let's go ahead and crawl underneath the truck and see if we can see what's going on. YouTubes, and here we are underneath the passenger side of this 2015 Chevy Silverado. Right here we have the transmission pan. Right off the transmission pan, off the bell housing, this is our starter right here. So this is what's giving us all our trouble. So what the starter does is, when you start the vehicle, electricity comes in here, a small motor comes out, a gear that turns the flywheel that starts the motor. So let's go ahead and have him crank it and see if we can hear it going on. Go ahead and try to start the truck for me. All right, one more time. You hear that clicking, guys? That's the starter motor trying to engage, but for whatever reason, it's not. So one trick, if you're in a real pinch, you can try to do is get yourself a hammer or a pry bar of some sort and bang on the starter while they try to start it. If you're stuck on the side of the road, that might be enough force to jar it into functioning. So I'm gonna tap on this while he tries to start it, just to see what that's gonna do for us. Go ahead and try to start it. And she's alive. All right, guys, now she's running. So that was not a permanent fix. That just helped us solidify that the issue actually was the starter. I was able to bang on it to actually allow the starter to engage, and now the truck is running. So what the owner's gonna do is he's gonna clear out his garage so we can get the truck pulled in so we can actually get the starter changed at a later date, because unfortunately it's close to midnight, all the auto parts stores are closed, so we're not gonna be able to get a starter today. That's a project for another day, but at least we know what the actual issue is. All right, guys, and there you go. A bit of a mixed bag for the owner today. Good news, bad news situation. Good news, it's just the starter, and we narrowed down to exactly what the issue is. Bad news is he needs a starter, and it's after midnight, and all the auto parts stores are going to be closed, so can't help him that way. Hopefully he reaches back out here soon once he gets the new starter for his vehicle, and we'll go ahead and get that swapped out for him. But you guys saw the process. That's the proper way to diagnose a non-starting situation for your vehicle. Never just jump and assume it's a particular relay, assume it's a particular fuse, assume it's the battery, assume it's the starter. Take your time, diagnose it appropriately. Start at the battery, make sure all of that checks out as you saw me do so. Check the proper fuses and relays, and then crawl underneath and take a look at the starter and see if you can hear or actually see a physical issue with the starter. And worst case scenario, if you're stuck on the side of the road and you really got to get home, or to your local mechanic shop so they can service the vehicle for you, and you have access to a hammer or a pry bar, and we've narrowed it down to it being the starter, go ahead and tap on it, smack on it. The force of that might be enough to actually allow the starter to engage, as it was in this particular situation, which allowed the owner to pull the vehicle into his actual garage so it can be serviced a little more easily and comfortably at a later date. So I hope you guys enjoyed our late night edition. I might be switching the name of the channel to Midnight Maintenance instead of Minute Maintenance. And I hope you guys enjoyed this After Dark edition. And as always, take a minute out of your own days to do some maintenance. We'll catch you next time.